European spots up for grabs, and it's going to be an absolute cracker of a last weekend of football. Hello and welcome to the All Balls channel. We have with us today the fans in question. Are they going to get the European spots? Carl, looking forward to the episode.
Absolutely looking forward to it. I mean, 7 teams are going to battle up for 5 European spots. As we all know, next season is going to be the European Conference League as well. So, all the more to play for. So, it's going to be a really interesting discussion.
Then let's get right into it. We have an interesting panel on board today. Fans from our top 6 clubs. We have Jonathan in a Liverpool t-shirt. We have Mike from West Ham, Rishi from Chelsea, Shian from Man United, and Clayton from Spurs. Guys, how's it going? I hope all is good. Interesting conversations to follow. Let's start with Aston Villa versus Chelsea. Rishi, my first question is to you. How is the nervousness? How are you taking it? And how are you dealing with the fact that there is a possibility of no Champions League next season?
Luckily, the win against Leicester helped us a lot because if we had lost to Leicester, the chances were very less. But since we won the match, I think we can even survive with a draw. I'm not wrong, but I think Tuchel will be concentrating more on the Champions League final than the Aston Villa game, and we are hoping that Liverpool or Leicester will screw up and just lose points over there.
Yeah, well, that's good to know. But you guys do have the attacking threat, Rishi, of Ollie Watkins, who has 14 goals, most scored by an English player by Aston Villa. Other than David Platt, I think, which was a couple of decades ago. Like, how do you guys think you're going to suppress this threat? Because Aston Villa is flying high. I mean, they've got nothing to lose. It's the last game of the season. What do you think you're going to do to suppress that attack?
True, but then we also have right now under Tuchel we have a good defensive core thanks to Thiago Silva, Aspilicueta, Rudiger, and Mendy. So I'm sure Tuchel will have some plans for that. And more than Watkins, we have to worry a bit more on Grealish because on his day he can just make any player into a world-class striker.
Absolutely.
But on the other hand, Johnny, up against a Chelsea and a Leicester for a place for that top 4. Now Leicester, probably between the three of you all, has the most difficult game, which is at Spurs. You are playing Crystal Palace, who you've beaten 7-0 before. But then again, Palace has always been, except for the 7-0, Palace has always been the team, that is your bogey team. So we'll get to that. But what do you predict for Chelsea's game and for Liverpool's game? Do you think it's going to come down to goal difference, points?
I think I'm quite confident that Liverpool will get the 3 points. I don't think it'll come down to goal difference, and I don't see Chelsea winning against Aston. I'm looking at a draw for Chelsea. I think Chelsea has a tougher game than the toughest game out of the 3, as per me.
I find that very hard to understand because I think Leicester and Tottenham have a tougher game, Jonathan. And I mean, we have a Tottenham fan amongst us, Clayton. And Clayton, you guys probably have the most difficult game. And you guys both teams are fighting for places in Europe. So, Clayton, what do you think is going to play out between Leicester versus Tottenham, though?
What's going to play out, man? Every Spurs game for the last year has been a flip of a coin. You know what I mean? I don't think I'm going to be able to tell how it's going to go down. It just depends on how the boys react on the field, I guess. There's really not much that can be said from outside because there's just so much going on at the club right now. For the last year, we've had so much going on. It's hard to gauge. For me, at least, it's hard to gauge. Whatever happens, man. I'm just waiting for the season to get done.
Season to get done, but then aren't you worried that once the season is done, your trump card will probably leave the club, which will then leave you in a position where other players might leave the club?
Look, man, I mean, all of this is happening in a context, right? I keep telling people, man, there's no club in the last 10 years that has moved from being a small club to being a big club. And what I mean by that is just in terms of brand, in terms of global reach, right? Football has changed in the last 10, 15 years. And there aren't that many clubs that have successfully made that transition from a smaller club to a bigger club. And Spurs have been trying to navigate through that. Now, we're lucky that we've had a group of like 6, 7 guys who've been the spine of our team for the last like 5, 6, 7 years, right? And there's good camaraderie. They're great guys. They're good friends. But that transition from small club to big club, I think we've had a bit of a trouble kind of navigating through that. So as far as Kane and the trump card goes, I mean, it's left to be seen. We can only speculate, right? It's left to be seen what happens. Part of me says, man, the boy should go. Part of me says he's going to stay. I don't know what's going to go down. We'll have, like I said, it's only after the season gets done, after the championships gets done, we see what happens. I don't know.
Well, speaking of surprise trump cards and surprise teams as well, I mean, West Ham also take on Southampton. And Mike, you're an ardent West Ham supporter. I mean, you guys have basically just blown us out of the water. You guys have just surprised us this season with some really fine attacking football, the resurrection of Jesse Lingard, and also perfect performers such as Souček and Soufal. Now you're up against a very tough Southampton team. I mean, I know, again, they also don't have much to lose. They're safe from relegation or anything like that. But they do have the attacking prowess of people like, James Ward-Prowse and Danny Ings. So in terms of that, like, you guys also do have the outside chance for qualifying for Europe. So how do you guys see that going out?
Yeah, I think, see, this is a must win for us because I don't think, to be honest, no matter, we have been playing wonderfully this season. We will admit that. And a lot of West Ham fans are there. We were having a discussion actually yesterday in our own group also about whether this is the best season we've had in the Prem. I actually don't adhere to that one. I actually still believe the 15-16 season was better. But there are a lot of fans who believe that this is the best season that we've had. Given that, I don't think any of us were really or realistically expecting to get the top 4 position. But we do want a European finish. So we do have more to win. We have more to lose here than Southampton do. Like you mentioned, Southampton are safe. They're not really playing for anything other than just pride right now. And I think this is the penultimate game for David Moyes in terms of he needs to motivate the players to be able to make that extra push that we need. I think we will be able to win and a good margin because the last time we faced Southampton, we drew with them 0-0, and that was without Antonio. So this time we have Antonio and Lingard firing. Okay, not Lingard because he's been off form for the past 4 to 5 games, but we hopefully as a team we'll be able to come forward and get a really good result.
But Mike, if you were given this position before the season ended, or before the season started, rather, saying we'll give you 6. So are you happy with 6 and Europe? Or are you disappointed that you had a chance for the Champions League and somewhere in probably the last 3 games you blew it?
No, see, we completely ecstatic about where we are at this point in the season. Forget the beginning of the season. There was an initial part, I think the first 5 or 6 games, where we thought we were going to be relegation contenders for a brief while. Then we suddenly started going on that really good run, and Moyes started getting the team to click together. And as it was mentioned earlier, people like Souček and Soufal have all clicked in, and they've become integrated into the system. I don't think we have anywhere near the squad depth to be able to do well in a Champions League campaign. And although I think this is a good step up if we make it into either the Europa or the ECL as it is right now, because that's also another possibility right now, to be put in. I think the 7th position gets into the ECL.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah.
So Europe is definitely something that we need right now at our club, because I think it's become obvious that if they don't deliver, both the Davids have really are under huge pressure from the fan base as a whole that we need to get European football by now at the Olympic Stadium. But we're happy right now. Champions League is out of our league right now. That's the honest thing. And we're going to be, I'm not going to say that. Obviously, it would have been brilliant to see Mark Noble's last season where he probably faces off against Messi or somebody. That's a pipe dream.
Well, I mean, hopefully that can be a reality. I mean, Mark Noble seems like an evergreen guy who doesn't seem to be quitting, but we'll see.
He came out and said he's come out and said that next season will be his last.
Oh, okay. So I guess fingers
Thank
crossed. I
God
mean,
for
Mark
that.
Noble can end his season on a high. Maybe I mean his final season on a high, playing some fine European football. And speaking about European potentials, last season there was a good team. That was Wolves that had really good potential. And they come across a team like Manchester United on the final day. So Shian, I know you guys are pretty much confirmed second place. You guys are pretty much safe in that case. Got confirmed Champions League football. But y'all are still up against a Wolves team that has to prove themselves and finish on a high at the end of the season.
Yeah, it's true, but I genuinely feel that United are playing a dead rubber because in a few days is the Europa final, and that's more important at the moment. So I feel like most of the main players like Bruno will either get limited minutes or he's not going to play. So the main concentration, I think, is the Europa final. So I don't see the actual, like you saw how we showed up against Leicester. I don't think we're going to come with a second string team, but like the likes of like Greenwood and all of them will get chances for sure.
But don't you think it's also an opportunity that you figure out your momentum, you get back to winning ways, considering we've had a shit last few games, lost to Leicester, lost to Liverpool. I think a pretty mediocre performance versus Fulham after taking the lead. So while yes, there is an injury threat, if players play, but don't you think you want to get back into the winning momentum and yes, give them probably a 60-minute stint in the middle, but give them a game to get that winning mentality back?
So I feel it's more of a yes and no. Like momentum is very important when you get into a final. But having said that, tomorrow if you play Bruno and like the tomorrow defender is always he's always at the receiving end of a defender, so you don't want him to get injured or something like that. So personally, I think we shouldn't risk it with like your Cavani's and Bruno's and everything who had are very important to the club and especially for the final. And like at the end of the day, if we finish the season and win the Europa, no one's going to care if we lost against Wolves or we drop points against Wolves. It's going to end like we ended because I think we've secured second, so there's no one catching up to second place. And as long as we get the Europa Cup and if we get second, I think it's a successful season with respect to progress. Like I don't think a club like Manchester United, I mean that should be the level. We should definitely go higher than that. But I think with the transfers in and getting rid of Deadwood, we can eventually get there.
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting. I mean, even though it's Manchester United's season that's almost culminated, I kind of understand the point as to where OGS is kind of like keeping all his eggs in one basket because of course, they have a big European final. And speaking again about European final, again coming back to Chelsea though, Rishi, you guys also have a big European final in a couple of days just after the Premier League. Do you think Tuchel is going to kind of tweak his team to try and save up on the best, or knowing that even European football is at this? I mean, because think about it, it's a catch-22 situation. Like they win the Champions League, then they qualify, but they also need to qualify here as well to confirm that. So, how do you think that's going to play out? Because they're up against a very tough Aston Villa side, and they got to get a point out.
I think he'll make a team based on that. He might again go with Werner as a striker. With I think he'll use Mount and Pulisic instead or and Ziyech as the attacking midfielder. But I don't think he'll risk Kante in that match though. He will want to keep Kante, safe and in a undisclosed location so that we can use him for the finals. And I'm sure he'll be thinking, okay, play Jorginho, play Gilmore, but Kante and Kovacic mostly won't be playing this Aston Villa game. But what I feel is he's going to play a bit of a like not the second string. Also, he's not going to play the first main squad because he knows that compared to Leicester and Liverpool, we are in a more stronger position to stay in the top four. And he'll be concentrating more on the Champions League because he missed out on that last year, where he could have beat Bayern, but I think this year he might be concentrating on that. I think Man City on the other hand also we are everyone feels they could win it and it's true, but they also are playing their first ever European final. They do have an advantage that Guardiola is there who has won it before, but they don't have any player who has won the Champions League, if I'm not wrong. I don't think anyone in their squad has won the Champions League or the Europa League. While Chelsea at least have players who have won the Europa League at least twice. So in terms of European finals, at least Chelsea has that edge. But Man City have a coach who has won the European final.
And I think Man
Yeah.
City has the edge in midfield. If you know the point I was getting at, if I say you play Jorginho, for me it's game over because you're resting Kante. Kante will be nullified by Fernandinho. For me, Gundogan will probably run circles around the Jorginho if you play him. Him and Bernardo Silva dropping deep is not a good sign. So is Tuchel definitely going to use Kovacic in that final, like the fans and everyone around is saying? Kante, of course, we knew, asked himself to be subbed off in the last game.
Yeah.
So is Kovacic a definite yes for you, or do you still think he will go with Jorginho considering the experience?
No, I think a coach is a definite yes, because again he's won the Champions League and he knows how it is to, play for a European club, a good European superpower. Jorginho, on the other hand, I think he's just going to do his random passes, so and the hop, skip, and jump for the penalties. So I don't think Tuchel is going to take a chance with that. He would go with Mount, Kante, and Kovacic mostly in the midfield. Maybe Havertz as a false line or something like that.
Well, speaking about important midfield players, again now Liverpool, Jonathan, you guys have not had the best of seasons in terms of like trying to retain your title, which you all won so well last season. But I know you all had a lot of injury issues, and the season has not been the best in terms of keeping players fit and stuff like that. Like people have fallen, especially with the losses of Virgil van Dijk and such. But now you kind of see now that there's a formation starting. I know it's at the end of the season and stuff like that, but you can see that the Klopp is now willing to take risks because I know it's the last game of the season, but I think it's also a point where a guy like Fabinho, who's been playing centre back the whole most of the season, covering up for Virgil van Dijk and stuff, he's now getting back to a familiar position, which is midfield. And do you think it's difficult now for him to transition? I know he's a professional, but I think it's a midfield of Liverpool which now has to learn to gel with because they're just getting that midfielders back from a position they weren't playing from.
Yeah, so I don't think it's going to be tough for him to transition. I think he's familiar in the position. He's proven himself. There's a lot more comfort when he plays in his position. So I think he's good there. I think he's been one of the stars for Liverpool this entire season. And to say that Liverpool's had a not so good season is an understatement because we've had a terrible season. Injuries to play a huge part of it. That being said, I will still take the fourth position. I think for the kind of season that we've had to end fourth, I think I'll take it. I'll be happy with it. And honestly, Fabinho, I think, has been one of Liverpool's key players this season. Just to hold the entire team, he's been good. I mean, he can play defense, and unfortunately, I say unfortunately because we have no more defenders, but he's been one of our best defenders. So hats off to him. I think he's done fabulous. I think in the midfield, that's where he's most comfortable, most creative, and we need him pushing up from the midfield.
Speaking of injuries, Mike, you had two very major injuries in the middle where you missed Declan Rice and you missed Ogbonna for the longest time. Do you think that is where fourth place probably slipped out, even though Lingard was getting you the goals? But Ogbonna and Rice being your spine and Antonio, very injury prone for the kind of guy he is, the size that he has and the strength that he has for him to get injured so often. So will that be a concern for Moyes going into next season? Will there be reinforcements? Or do you think just a Jesse Lingard in and that's it?
No, you're definitely right. When you were mentioning earlier the injuries, I nearly thought you were going to miss out on Antonio because one big thing about I was actually doing an analysis of our season so far, and a lot of the games that we failed to score in, and also the games that we lost, more than half of them had Antonio not being a part of the fixture. That shows how important he is actually in terms of being a spearhead for our team. The thing is, see, I might have sounded a little bit pessimistic earlier, but one thing that I do think we need to get kudos for as West Ham is among the top 6 to 7 teams right now, we have the most not depleted. We have the thinnest squad in terms of the actual options that we have. The minute Declan Rice got injured, who came in? Mark Noble, who basically has no legs at this point. And we have no other options. We had probably Connor Coventry, who is a youth player. But the thing about Moyes is he doesn't really give too much answers to young players, I guess, unless, especially in a situation where he needs this thing. And the thing about Moyes is he has a tendency to, I don't know whether it's a kind of a shell shock effect against bigger teams, but he has a tendency to not play our natural game against the bigger teams, and we tend to come back. So that another one, that is also because of the options that we have. We don't have that many options in terms of squad depth. Our actual first 11 is pretty good, but we don't have. Antonio got injured. We tried so many. There was a point where we were actually having. There were rumors about Issa Diop being converted into a central striker because we didn't have that many options as a central forward. There were. When you think about it, Antonio's out. Who is actually coming in to replace him as a centre forward? We sold off Sebastian Haller, who we had mixed reactions about. Those who hated him, but once he left, we sold him off, and we didn't get any replacement for him in the centre forward thing. Antonio is actually someone who's come in as a makeshift, and yes, he is injury prone. And the thing is, I don't know whether this is something you guys have noticed, but I actually think there are three players in the Prem who are similar in the terms of players that they are. That's Antonio, Adama Traore, and Saint Maximin in Newcastle. And funnily enough, all these three guys are huge, tanky players who can really drive with the ball, but they're also injury prone. I don't know whether there's something that can be made out of from that, but then yeah, we definitely need more. Lingard alone is not going to be enough. Especially if we get into the spots, we definitely need more options in the midfield. Because actually, a lot of our our senior fans. So we have a group called the Indian Hammers, and you get to see a lot of difference in terms of where they come from. And one of the things that that's a common thread among our more senior or more experienced fans would be the fact that they've identified that we play a lot of players out of position just to cover when we have less players. Lingard plays on the left right now, or where does he play in the center or attacking mid? The thing is, once we actually have a proper system in, that's something that we can look forward to. But right now, we definitely need more reinforcements. Unfortunately, our board is such that there were stories. There was a story recently put up also that we might not even be able to afford Lingard, and that's a free player coming off his last contract. So if we can't even
why just swap him with Rice?
No, that's not going to happen. Rice is definitely selling Rice would be the death knell for the Davids right now. If they allow us to be in a position where we sell off Rice, because Rice is, I think he's still, even after the brilliant season that he's had, he still continues to be one of the most underappreciated or underrated players. Because where was Souček? Souček has scored 10 goals, more than Lingard has scored. But if you notice, for the past 4 to 5 games, he's not even been anywhere close to scoring a goal. As in, he's not even been in positions where he can score goals. And that's because Rice was out of play. Once Rice was out of play, Souček had to cover for him defensively. So, yeah, we definitely need cover there. I think it's we've had a brilliant season. All kudos to Moyes for it. But I don't want it to paper over the fact that we have a lot of holes in our squad that we definitely need to reinforce.
Well, speaking about people like Thomas Souček, who I think has been probably one of your best midfielders for West Ham this season, we're just going to segue quickly also into Spurs' midfield as well. And Clayton, for me, I feel one of your best midfield players this season has been Højbjerg, Pierre-Emil Højbjerg. And he's played a very important part. I mean, yeah, people can talk about Ndombele and other midfielders though. But I honestly think it's been a revelation getting Pierre-Emil Højbjerg to the pitch, and he's kind of complemented into letting people like Son and Kane thrive up front.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, if you're singling out an individual, then yeah, I mean, he's a fantastic player. He can pick a pass, he can great block off the ball. It seems like he's a little antsy sometimes and he gets a little carried away. He seems like an emotional kind of player, but he has definitely been one of our better players of the season, no doubt about it. And he's only an add-on to our team. So yeah, fantastic player, good on him. But again, it's been a hard season and it's hard to kind of make sense of it all because it has been a really tricky season. But Højbjerg, yeah, fantastic player. Only good things to say about him, nothing bad at all.
I mean, Mourinho aside though, Clayton, I mean, what do you think has been the issue though? I mean, I know the biggest thing is the problem about how Mourinho was playing this first squad. But what do you think has been the other lacks in the squad that, in the whole, how do you say, the environment of the team that kind of made them have the season that they are going through right
Look, man, it's so nuanced, right? Like there's so many variables. It's like when you're running a company, right? There's so many variables at play here. There's so many nuances to be thinking about. As far as Mourinho goes, I mean, it's just been a weird season, man. It's just really hard to make sense of any of what's going on. All I know and all I can see is that there is a transition that we've kind of been stuck in for a while, and we've just not had the right kind of spearhead to break through this whole transition mode. So, yeah, man, I'm just waiting for the season to get done and let's see what another manager. Definitely we don't have the people in the team to kind of lead this team. No offense and no disrespect to Kane or Dyer or Højbjerg, but really, William Lloris, I really don't see anyone that can grab this team by the collar and say, guys, let's just pull up our socks and let's just move on, man, from whatever we've been at, wherever we've been at. So hopefully a new manager will do the trick.
Chirag Clayton mentioned anti midfielders who can pick a pass. I think the first one applies for Fred. I'm not sure about the second part of it, but
He's
the major
underrated,
part
bro.
of the
He's underrated.
I'm surprised you say he's rated, but do you think Pogba in the center is required or can he play there? And the second one is, while it hurts my heart to ask you this, but did United miss Maguire?
now?
So I'll answer the first part with Mr. Fred. I feel that now he's got his national call up, and we can get rid of him. It's good because I feel he does well in big games, but I feel he's a liability otherwise because like you're not sure when he has the ball, he's going to lose the ball or one bad pass at the edge of our box. So I genuinely feel that is the reason why you can't play Pogba in the center and Fred behind. Like you need a good like CDM like an NDD or Rice coming in so that like then moving forward then we can then Pogba can be that box to box guy. So and Maguire, yes, we did miss him. I genuinely feel if you leave the price tag aside, he is one of the best defenders at least this season for in the Premier League, like the top 10, 15 if you would like to consider. Because when you see like Lindelof and Axel or Bailey, like you can actually see the difference. Like the communication is not there, or we're just all over the place. So, like yes, he doesn't have pace. His turning radius isn't fast at all, but like you need someone to complement him. So I feel if you get that player, like I always feel like the player like a Marquinhos would have done really well across Maguire, like a leader, but at the same time, someone to complement Maguire. Like Lindelof is slow. He has his moments. He's not consistent though. So that is the reason why like we have to go into the transfer market and just get a good centre back alongside Maguire.
But is it just the reason that Maguire has played so many games is why we missed him and not because he's actually that good, because we've seen in the past he's been turned very easily. Project Restart, it all started from there where Bergwijn turned him like a little child. So is it just a case that he has played so many games that he's there and the others have not, like a Bai and a Lindelof or Twanzebe, they've not played together that often? Is that why it's making Maguire look good, or do you genuinely feel he is good?
So at the moment, when you look from the defensive point of view, like at Man United, I'm considering him good because we don't have quality at centre backs right now. So if I'm comparing him to an Axel and Lindelof, then obviously Maguire is up there. But tomorrow, if like someone offered me a Ruben Diaz, then I would like without thinking twice. So it's about what we have and we have to build on that. We can't be like complaining and saying like Maguire is not good enough. It's just like you spend 80 million for him. He's at the peak, or like he's like close to 30 now, so you're not going to get any resale value of him. Just keep him and complement him and move on. That's how I feel we have to go with the situation.
Well, fair enough. I mean, Maguire is a kind of a missed guy. And speaking about rocks and defenders, you have plenty of good defenders also who are representing these teams right now. And I'm just going to segue a little bit away from that. And I'm going to talk about a little bit about the managers of all these respective clubs, starting off with Rishi, though. Rishi, now I know Thomas Tuchel has rejuvenated the squad after what you guys have been through. And again, you'll have plenty more to play off. Although y'all didn't do quite well in the FA Cup, you'll still have another final to play. But how do you rate Tuchel this season? Even though I know the season's not over, but how do you rate Tuchel this season, and what do you think he's going to be doing moving forward?
So Tuchel right now he's in a crossroads. He can actually be the next Abraham Grant or the next Di Matteo. And unfortunately, he's halfway through to being the next Abraham Grant because he has already lost one final and he's on the Champions League final. Regardless, I would still say his season was a success because at the circumstances what he was put in with joining a club and not even having a training session and then playing the first match and then from there bringing the team to this position, I would give him easily an 8. For next season, though, I feel he should concentrate more on Werner and Havertz and make sure they are ready to play more efficiently for the club. Like Werner, we all say Werner is a flop, and countless number of times Raoul and you, Carl, have said that he can't hit a barn door, he misses everything, but he is still Chelsea's leading goal scorer. He and that is actually a problem too, where the leading goal scorer for a club like Chelsea has only scored 12 goals. Chelsea's leading goal scorer in the Premier League is Jorginho with 7 goals, and all 7 goals were penalties. So obviously, what Chelsea need is a goal scorer, which unfortunately was not Werner. And I'm not going to be a person who's going to say that we have to get a Haaland or a Kane, which is uh, obviously impossible. No club can afford a Haaland or a Kane right now, maybe other than Man City. So I just hope he manages to get the best out of Werner and Havertz next season. Maybe get one striker or try to get back Tammy Abraham into the starting 11 and at least challenge for the title. I'm not expecting the title again, but just challenge for the title.
Speaking of managers, we have the best excuse award for managers between Ole and Klopp. Jonathan, we'll start with you. With who do you think took that? I don't think you want me to get into all the excuses. Though Ole only had a couple. Klopp had probably like a book of short stories. But starting with you, which one of the two wins that award?
I'm still a Klopp supporter, man. I'm still a fan of Klopp. Whatever said and done, I'm still a supporter. I'm still a fan. I think he did a damn good job building up the team. Our defense was a huge problem, which he sorted out. We had problems with, you could say, the weaker teams or the teams in the lower down the table, which he sorted out last season. I think he was building up to a great team this season, also bringing Jota, bringing in Thiago. Unfortunately, again, injuries. Not that that's the main excuse, but that does have a lot to play, and the front three not firing also. But I'm still a Klopp fan.
And Shian, you think the red seats at Old Trafford kind of played with our home game results, as the great Ole has mentioned?
Yeah, I think that was a little clutching on straws moment at that time because he had to find an excuse of why we were poor at home. But nothing compared to Klopp. Like I think that was ridiculous. At some point, he was, yeah, like I think he was blaming the weather once. He blamed Manchester United, who wasn't a part of that game. He's saying that they are getting penalties when they lost one game. I think to a relegation team, and I'm like, but you see what he was doing there, but he always deflects from the main issue. Like I feel Liverpool, like I can't believe like they were champions of England, they were champions of the world, they were champions of Europe,
Easy,
and
easy,
now
easy.
like what has happened? Only one injury. Like technically Van Dijk
One injury.
yeah, I'm saying Van Dijk is unreplaceable, but like a Gomez, you can replace him. Like, and with Van Dijk, you lost 7-2 against Villa, so it's not like there were chinks in the armor. Like people have found out how to play against Liverpool, in my opinion, and they are like if you like City have always been consistent, like now you're going to see Mane or Salah leave. You're going to like. I feel like it's good. It's good to be a United fan because they had this one season where there were no fans. They didn't get or like no, they couldn't lift the trophy in a stadium full of fans, so nobody cares about it anymore. And before we know it, I think City will lift the cup, and then we'll forget that Liverpool won it last year. So yeah.
Dude, people know how to play against Liverpool because we have no players. We have one squad. We have two substitutes that can come on, play the long ball. Our defense test them out and hope for goals. That's why people can play Liverpool now because we have no players. And I don't blame Klopp, man. He has so much on his mind. He looks to his bench and there's nobody there. He has to blame the weather. He has to look for something else. And yeah,
But Johnny,
Liverpool.
I want to cut you off there just to ask you, talking about Klopp, do you think he tried too many centre back combinations, which is why y'all got to this defensive point? Because when you have regular centre backs on the bench, why would you play a Henderson at centre back? Was my only, question against Klopp. You have the centre backs, he's playing them now, he's bought two more. So do you think somewhere there is where you actually, went down that slippery slope in the season?
Yeah, I do kind of agree. I feel Klopp is he's very comfortable with the players he has seen at the training camp and who play for him constantly. So I think that's why he went with Fabinho at the back, also Henderson. I think he gets too comfortable with players. You see that with the front three also, Mane, Salah, and Firmino. It's always them, and there's no real change. Now Jota comes in, so he has a little bit. But I do feel that he put a foot wrong there. He should have had some more confidence in the players that we had, play a proper defender in his position, and then the rest of the team gather around them and go forward. So yeah, I do feel he put a foot wrong there. But like I said earlier, I'll still take a Champions League spot next season. I'm still okay with the outcome.
Well, from Jurgen Klopp to a man who probably has been in the hot seat for a short time, but I'm sure Tottenham, Clayton, are looking for a replacement for the next season. But how would you rate Ryan Mason this time? And who do you think, ideally, as a Tottenham fan, would like to be his replacement?
You can't really say much about Ryan Mason, man. But a 29-year-old guy, had 5 games in now. I mean, if anything, he just, he's played with these guys. If anything, he just kind of calmed them down, and there's really not much in terms of like strategy that I don't think he has much to offer. As far as another manager goes, I haven't given it too much thought. I'm really more than yeah, man. I don't know. I'm not looking forward to anyone, to be honest. I'm not like wanting any specific manager. Maybe Hansi Flick, but again, hoping for maybe too much. I don't know.
So this probably might not, agree with this question, but do you think David Moyes is, he is meant for clubs like Everton, West Ham? Of course, no disrespect to the fact that, you guys have done brilliantly this season, but as compared to a United or a Chelsea or a Liverpool for that matter, the so-called top 6, do you think David Moyes is better suited in this role where it is probably mid-table or top 8 as in compared to battling for the title? Because he's done a great job with you guys, but he wasn't at his best at United. And before that, he was, I think, close to amazing at Everton. So do you think these are the kind of clubs David Moyes is supposed to be at?
Yeah, I don't take that as an insult, actually. I actually honestly think that Moyes is at his correct depth in terms of the issues that he faces. I don't think he has the thing is, even now, with the amazing season that he's had, there are certain deficiencies or there are certain things in his management that I can definitely say are stuff that I would like improved on. His attitude in terms of facing teams which are part of the traditional big teams. He always has a tendency to shy away for some reason or the other, which is weird considering the fact that, see, when people like Sam Allardyce used to do it with us, at least they had an excuse saying that we were the underdog team and we had to face a team like that. But when Moyes, the thing which always frustrated me about Moyes this season too was when we had a really good run and we were playing a certain way, where we were on the front foot against a lot of these teams, then suddenly we face a team like Chelsea, which happened in the huge loss also. It's not so much in terms of losing against the big teams as in terms of how we have approached the games against the big teams. So I think Moyes needs to actually, there is a little bit of, like there's that tiny jump he has to make, like it's a skip in his character or something that I think, yes, it's something that can't be expected of a top level coach. Because when you're a person who's supposed to manage a top level club, you're supposed to be able to approach every game as in, okay, this is a game that we can win, rather than we need to survive this game. And that's the most disappointing thing that I can say about him in terms of his small deficiencies that he's shown this season. I think he's at his West Ham are in the position where we can actually give him something that he didn't have in Everton. This is theoretically. I mean, with the Davids, if they actually give us the proper backing, then he has something that he didn't have in Everton. Because in Everton, you knew he had hit that glass ceiling of sorts. It's only recently when they've had Ancelotti come in and those new owners come in that Everton has been really able to back their managers with some really big money. But hopefully the Davids, as per what they have claimed, if we do get into Europe, then they're going to give him some backing. If that doesn't happen, then I don't think Moyes can really go any further than he has already taken us so far. Because I think we are at the moment where we are at that crossroads. This is the point where we need to show that are we willing to give that extra amount of push to be able to graduate into a bigger team than what we are right now. We'd be happy with just being a top 8 club at the moment. So I think for now, Moyes, perfect guy to be at our club. Hopefully he can improve on.
Well, speaking of now coming to predictions, so as the way I like to call it, though, now we all have players and friends over here who are huge fans of their clubs. And I want to just start off one by one, starting with Rishi though. Who do you think has been your best player this season? Like barring Europe, like just the Premier League alone, the most consistent player. Like who do you think is your player this season and why?
Um, Player of the season, if you're saying, are you asking regarding the new signings or just overall squad?
Anyone in general, who do you think has been
Okay,
the standout player this season? Who has contributed
then
the most?
yeah, then standout player this season has to be Mason Mount. Everyone thought he was just getting into the team because he was Lampard's pet project, but he proved everyone wrong by being consistently picked for Tuchel and for Southgate. And every game he's improved leaps and bounds. He's showing that he's creative. He knows he can just run at the defenders, and he knows he has the basic defensive instincts, so he can at least stop the attack how much ever possible. And for me, that shows his value. And the thing is that with him, I had a big fear last season, at the end of last season, that when Havertz comes, would his development be stifled? But luckily, he's just pushed Havertz away, and he just made his position in the team, and he's also won the Player of the Season for Chelsea. So it's just well deserved.
How important and how influential it's been like towards your season ending? Like besides that, who do you think would come a close second, Shian, towards being a player of the season?
Yeah, I honestly feel Bruno's another level. So I had an opportunity to last year to watch Chelsea United, where we won 2-0, and the same end where Bruno took that corner and Maguire scored for once. So just his like the body language before the game, he just is on another level. Like I feel he's been a blessing. Like without him, I think Ole has lost his job. So because he's literally been carrying the team on his own, like offensively, his mindset. If you like listen to his interviews, also it's always like he's always thinking on another level only. So I feel yes, he's definitely like the best player at United. There has been great progress from the likes of Luke Shaw as well. I think he got voted also the Players Player of the Year.
Yeah.
So I think it's been good from him. But I feel like as a club, like there are players like Van Bissaka has improved compared to last year. Like there has been that slight progress. Like Henderson pushing De Gea a bit. So as a club, we have improved. But I would give it to Luke Shaw. I would feel like he's improved. Like I think once he's gotten over that bad phase of under Mourinho, and when he had a manager backing him finally, I think he managed to deliver and show that he is quality and like proven the money that was paid for him from Southampton. So it's great. And he had Tellez pushing him. It's sad that there had to be a backup for him to be pushed, but I feel he's finding his feet. Like even when there was this ESL issue that was around the clubs, I think Maguire, Bruno, and Shaw were the ones who were, quite vocal about it. So he's a voice in the dressing room, which is important as well. And I feel we need to, have those kind of players moving forward.
Speaking of Mourinho, Clayton, let's come to your player of the season.
Player Harry Kane, man. There's no like what else you can say. But other than Harry Kane, I think Højbjerg is up there. And Ndombele, I think he really stepped up under Mourinho. I think that boy's got a lot of talent. He seems like very nonchalant, lazy kind of guy. But I think he really responded to Mourinho in some way, stepped up, which takes a lot of effort and courage, I think. But yeah, Harry Kane right on top there. He's got like some 35 plus goal involvements. He's carrying this team by himself. He's been doing it for a while. Harry Kane, enough.
Not even a slight mention for Son. Clayton.
I think Son another year. I think maybe next year he'll really step into what he can do. I think for me, consistency is more important than skill and talent. And because there's an old saying, right? Like, but yeah, consistency. I feel like I think Son needs really another year before he can really step into what he can do fully.
Oh, well, on the topic of Son, we'll go to the son of Jurgen Klopp, which is most likely to be Thiago Alcantara, because I think the other two sons, which is Mane and Salah, who have been the linchpins of the Liverpool team. But Jonathan, again, now we've already discussed that the team was ravaged by injuries and stuff, but who do you think has been that consistent performer? And don't tell me it's Mr. Thumbs Up Thiago, because he's only had one goal this season. But I'm sure it's going to be definitely a fight between Mane, Salah, and the usual suspects, I guess. And Trent Alexander-Arnold.
So tough one to call for me because as per me, no real player has been so consistent throughout the entire season. Players have come good for a few games, then knocked off. I love Alexander-Arnold. He's one of my favorites, but he just seemed out of sorts after his injury. Since he's come back, he's not been as impactful as he was earlier. Tough call. Salah again, 22 goals, top scorer again, but he's missed probably 40 goals. So it's tough one to call. I'd say for Liverpool, the most influential. This is a little off beat, but I'd still say Fabinho's done a great job this season. I would not put any of the front three in my top list. And again, shout out for Thiago. Whatever he's done, been brilliant so far.
Fair enough.
And what about Andy Robertson? I think he's not missed too many minutes in your season, and he's probably been your best defender.
Robertson has, in fact, I think he has the most playing minutes, just above Salah this season. But again, not as impactful as the last season. Those 50-50 balls that you knew he would win, those cut inside, the runs down the line. It's all, he's playing at 80%. Him and Alexander is what I feel. So just the season this year was more about making up for the losses with the injuries. And I think Fabinho has done a great job to just hold the team together without Henderson being there to do that. So, yeah.
Well, making up for lots of injuries does cover up as well. And again, now coming to Mike though on West Ham. Now you did mention that you all had one of the thinnest squads, but of course you had some standout performers. And what I like about this West Ham team this season is that you guys have collectively performed together. Yes, barring aside, the purple patch that Jesse Lingard is going through. But for you, who do you think was your outstanding player this season?
Okay. You actually worded it perfectly, I think so. The best thing about this season, I think you can say, is that it's very hard to actually pick out one particular person to say that he's the best player that is there in the squad right now. Because there were times where Souček stepped up for us. There were times where Antonio stepped up for us. There were times where Lingard obviously stepped up for us, and most importantly, we had really consistent performers in players like Fabianski in goal. Then you had Soufal, who is, in my opinion, actually, when you talk about complete right backs, as in a person who's good both defensively and attacking wise, I think he's in the top 3 in the league in terms of his actual ability wise. Yes, he's new to the league, so he hasn't gotten that much name yet. But then I think he really is a player he reminds me a lot of Zabaleta in his prime, actually. Yeah, and then you have me personally. I'm going to go with a bit of a emotional decision, and that's actually Rice. I think Rice is the best player that we've had. He's stepped up to that role to be the captain, not only in terms of wearing the armband, but also the guy who gets the entire team together. And you know how important he is to the team if you watch our games. Because without him, there's a huge hole in the midfield, and you kind of feel that, okay, I honestly believe that Rice is possibly in his role in terms of him doing what he does. I think there's no player who's better than him in the league. Maybe there are guys who are at his level, maybe at this point, but there's no one who's better in terms of shielding the defense and then making sure that the ball transitions from defense to midfield to attack really well. I don't think there's anybody who has that game reading that he has. So he is my hammer of the year. Which is kind of maybe a bit different from what everybody would be expecting in terms of the popular ones would be probably Lingard and maybe Souček. Lingard has been, see, the thing is the purple patch did last. I will readily admit I was one of those guys who was skeptical when Lingard first came in. And I was like, why are we getting Lingard? But he did show that when he's on form, he really has something to contribute. But I also think he is a little bit overrated in terms of how highly he's been touted. I mean, there was a discussion I was having with a fellow hammer where he was talking about him being possibly better than Payet. I was like, no. I mean, there's a difference between a guy who is on really good form and a guy who has actually had that, that magic ability on the ball. And I think Lingard, as good as he is, I don't think he's world class or anywhere close to world class at the moment. But yeah, I think Rice, for the reasons that Clayton mentioned also in terms of him picking Kane, a guy who whenever he performs, he's going to perform his role to the highest level of quality. 5 games now that Lingard has been really off. I know he got an assist last game, but other than the assist, he barely contributed anywhere into the game. So I'm still a bit not sold on Lingard totally. I still think we need to get him, but I don't think he's the savior of West Ham as some people have been.
You're just going to use that as an excuse to get his price down. Don't lie.
Dude, he's in the last year of his contract, right? I think we're going to get him at a cheap price. It's his wages which are the issues, I think.
See there, he said it. It's not me. He said it. It's on camera. He has said it. So yes, of course, we will obviously, everyone will predict that their teams will go through. But before we leave, guys, I think a special mention and a word on Arsenal. Wow, that's it. I've got it.
That's all you need. That's all you need. I mean, like, Clayton's probably enjoying this as well right now. He's just basking in all the misery that I have right now.
You guys can still potentially think. Arsenal can still potentially overtake Tottenham.
Yeah, right? They can overtake Spurs.
Yeah, no, ironically, as ironic as this sounds, I'm really looking forward to what Arteta does next year. I'm really looking forward to it. I think he's a great manager. I think he's got a good bunch of players. I want to see what he does. I really want to see what he does.
He's preparing for losing Kane, Alderweireld and Son at the same time because he's looking forward to what Arteta is going to do. This is hilarious. But yes, thank you guys so much for joining us. Good luck in the race. Of course, Shian is on second. Mike, Rishi, Johnny, Clayton, thank you for joining us. Shian, thank you. It was amazing having you guys and stay safe.
Take care.
Well, man, thanks a lot. See you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.